Let's tackle the most renowned and romanticized profession of the Old West. The American cowboy often takes center stage in the grand narratives of the era, as depicted on the silver screen. However, it's essential to recognize that the actual job was not always as glamorous as Hollywood would have us believe. To put it simply, a cowboy had one primary duty: safeguarding the valuable cattle on the ranch where they were employed, as outlined by history. You see, both bandits and outlaws were acutely aware of the worth of cattle, and these livestock were prone to disappearing, with or without protection. What's particularly ironic is that even though the cowboy's image is so closely tied to America, the role itself has Mexican origins, as revealed by American Cowboy. Known as vaqueros, these Mexican cowboys had the same job description as their American cowboy counterparts, overseeing and protecting cattle. A cowboy's skill set had to encompass specific abilities, including roping, lassoing, herding, and adept horsemanship, all of which were essential for keeping cattle together and rounding up strays. Cowboys earned a respectable income, typically ranging from $25 to $40 per month, as reported by history. In today's terms, this translates to approximately $950 to $1,500 a month. However, they had to work diligently for their wages, often enduring days that extended far beyond the conventional 8-hour workday, frequently pushing close to double that duration. As a mainstream profession, cowboy life gradually faded away by the 1920s. Nevertheless, there are still cowboys in existence today. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, in 2021, there were 847,600 jobs categorized under farmers, ranchers, and agricultural managers, a category encompassing the modern-day successors to the cowboys of old. In the Old West, blacksmithing might not have been as glorified as some other occupations, but it was undoubtedly one of the most stable and lucrative professions around. Old West Iron shares that during the Wild West era, there was no better time to be a blacksmith, marking it as a sort of golden age for this craft in the first half of the 1800s. And the reasons are clear. In burgeoning communities where construction played a pivotal role, who else possessed the know-how to forge the essential tools that everyone required? From hammers to horseshoes, these items were in constant demand, and blacksmiths were the ones tasked with ensuring their availability. Moreover, the agricultural sector also relied heavily on the skills of blacksmiths, who crafted indispensable equipment like plows and shovels. The financial rewards for blacksmiths were substantial. As outlined in Working the Flame, they could earn between $1 and $1.50 a day for equipment repairs and around $5 a day for crafting new tools. Translated to modern currency, this equates to a range of $30 to $200 per day, and potentially more if they multitasked. In addition to their regular tasks, blacksmiths also undertook carriage repairs, per Old West Iron, further boosting their income and diversifying their range of services. In fact, blacksmiths in the Wild West were so well compensated that they often hired and trained paid apprentices to assist in daily operations while passing on their valuable trade knowledge. The law may not enjoy the finest reputation in the Old West, but much of this reputation stems from movies romanticizing the lives of outlaws. Names like Jesse James, Butch Cassidy, and Billy the Kid are familiar to most, solidifying their status as Wild West outlaws. Nevertheless, History Extra informs us that while gunfights and outlaws certainly existed, the extent of lawlessness was not as rampant as portrayed. We'll delve into the foundational structure of law in the Old West and shed light on how, in the absence of organized law, ordinary townsfolk had to take matters into their own hands. This necessity led to the emergence of lawmen, such as sheriffs, deputies, and bounty hunters tasked with apprehending wrongdoers. Additionally, lawyers, judges, and executioners played their part in ensuring that these troublemakers wouldn't pose a threat again. It's worth noting that U.S. Marshals were also a common sight in more established Western towns, and while some outlaws made a significant profit, their reigns were often short-lived. Working within the framework of law in the American West was a hazardous undertaking, but it also presented ample opportunities due to the numerous roles that needed to be filled. Virtually every town had its sheriff, and bounty hunters roamed the land in search of lucrative rewards for capturing wanted criminals. Judges were essential for delivering verdicts, although corruption did sometimes rear its head. As pointed out by History Extra, certain towns earned a reputation as outlaw havens, their names providing a clear clue. These were places ruled by outlaws. The role of a teacher has held significant importance throughout history. There has always been a need for someone to impart knowledge to the next generation, equipping them with the tools for further learning. Similar to the present day, the role of a teacher in the American West, although underappreciated, wasn't as undervalued as one might assume. While certain establishments like saloons often appeared to take center stage in Wild West settlements, education was far from neglected. The iconic image of a one-room prairie schoolhouse is not far from reality. As revealed by Wild West magazine, such schoolhouses were quite commonplace on the American frontier. However, they posed considerable challenges for teachers since a single educator had to accommodate children of varying ages in the same classroom. This necessitated allocating time to each age group, devising suitable lessons and learning materials, and finding ways to keep the other students engaged or entertained when the teacher's attention was divided. It's challenging to find something more emblematic of the Wild West than the saloon, and this is because nearly every town had one, and they were highly profitable establishments. According to Wild West magazine, there was a simple reason for this. Starting a saloon was a straightforward endeavor. Prospective saloon owners required only basic shelter, some seating, and a supply of alcohol to get started. With these essentials in place, a saloon was up and running. As the Sierra Sun notes, saloons often emerged as the first structures in frontier towns. Life on the frontier was demanding, and people sought places to unwind and relax. This created ample job opportunities for those seeking employment. The work was also quite accessible, allowing individuals who were temporarily out of work or considering a career change to try their hand at bartending, save some money, and money was readily available, and then pursue other aspirations beyond serving rowdy patrons, as detailed by Wild West magazine. Furthermore, as the same source elaborates, the type of work required in saloons varied based on the size of the establishment. Larger saloons necessitated more employees. Beyond the bartender, saloons employed individuals to oversee gambling operations, handle portering duties, shine shoes, and manage tobacco rooms. Saloons offered a wide range of employment opportunities, although they weren't always associated with the most reputable professions. In today's world, mining is often regarded as a job devoid of glamour, especially in the coal mines of the East Coast, where danger overshadowed any potential profit. However, out on the American frontier, although the element of danger remained, the promise of substantial profit was much more enticing. After all, there's a vast difference between coal and precious metals like gold. In the western frontier, miners delved into the earth in search of gold and silver during a time when a successful dig yielding just a handful of nuggets could lead to instant and often lifelong wealth. As documented by the Meeting of Frontiers, this pursuit of gold was responsible for the establishment of numerous towns in the western frontier. However, while gold and silver initially fueled the mining industry out west, it eventually expanded to encompass other valuable resources such as iron, copper, oil, and gas. This expansion meant even more opportunities for profit, which in turn resulted in the employment of countless individuals eager to make a living. Yet, it's essential to remember that life in the mines was far from glamorous. Safety concerns took a back seat, and miners' health was frequently neglected. For example, a study conducted in a particular butte, Montana mine, revealed that miners were succumbing to tuberculosis at rates 10 times higher than the national average. The connection was quickly made to the dust present in the mining operations, a health hazard that likely existed in numerous other mines as well. Despite the influence of bandits and outlaws on life in the Wild West, they undeniably constituted a form of employment. For those who found teaching or running a bank unappealing, the alternative path involved saddling up and embarking on a life of crime, raiding and stealing in pursuit of a better existence. Curiously, the world of banditry bore some resemblance to the realm of modern-day business tycoons. There were a select few who soared above the rest, figures like Jesse James, alongside numerous other outlaws who achieved varying degrees of success without attaining the same level of fame. Nonetheless, it's essential to recognize that the Wild West was not as untamed as Hollywood often portrays it. Law and order frequently prevailed, and even one of the most legendary gunfights in history, the infamous shootout at the OK Corral, concluded in just a swift 30 seconds. The lawlessness that occasionally emerged from such incidents tended to be isolated and short-lived, much like the fleeting notoriety that often characterizes the allure of being an outlaw in the Old West. As with any industry, growth and expansion bring forth new employment opportunities. Mining was a prime example of this phenomenon, with an increasing demand for miners to extract the riches from the land. However, the railroad industry was another frontier in the Old West that offered a plethora of job openings. In fact, opportunities in this industry were so abundant that there weren't enough people available to fill all the positions. The expansion of the Central Pacific Railroad required a vast workforce. They needed approximately 4,000 laborers at any given time, but could only muster about 800 workers. In total, it's estimated that around 14,000 laborers were needed. The American West couldn't supply the necessary labor force on its own, leading the Central Pacific to turn to Chinese immigrants for the manpower they required. Together, the Union Pacific and the Central Pacific Railroad laid over 1,700 miles of tracks, an astounding feat that demanded an immense amount of labor. While the wages for this work were not particularly high, ranging from $800 to $1,200 per month by modern standards, there was still a significant amount of money circulating within the railroad business. This was just one example of the various ways people earned their livelihoods and contributed to the development of the American frontier in the Wild West.